So Mark Gregory has an almost legendary status amongst fans of Italian exploitation cinema. And Mark Gregory was born Marco di Gregorio, I believe, in Rome on the 2nd of May, 1964. You might need to fact check me on that. And legend has it that the budding bodybuilder was discovered in a gym by Italian director Enzo Castellari at the tender age of 22. So Enzo recalled that young Mark had a magnetic look and a bit of a street tough energy, and the director was prepping for a movie that had become legendary in the annals of Italian post-apocalyptic cinema. Arguably the godfather of Italian post-apocalyptic cinema, with Warriors of the Wasteland serving as godfather too, in my humble opinion. So I am, of course, talking about 1990, the Bronx Warriors from 1982. And even though young Marco di Gregorio had virtually no acting experience, he did have a certain look that Mr. Castellari was looking for. I guess that animal magnetism, that Italian animal magnetism. So amazingly, he was cast as the lead role of Trash, leader of the Riders. And Trash's surname's never revealed, but I like to think that it's either Bag, Can, or hopefully Compactor. And 1990, the Bronx Warriors was a breakout role for Marco di Gregorio, now known as Mark Gregory. The movie was a mashup between the Warriors and Escape from New York. And Trash was an understated counterbalance, I reckon, to larger-than-life characters like Ogre, played by Fred Williamson, and Gollum, played by George Eastman, and Hammer, played by Vic Morrow. And Trash was also rumoured to be the inspiration for Slash from Guns N' Roses. At least that's what I heard. And they may even be long-lost twins, but that's something you might need to ask Grok. So this movie was shot primarily in abandoned industrial zones on the outskirts of Rome, with additional second unit shots in New York City in South Bronx, I believe, for authenticity. And Mark Gregory returned as Trash in Bronx Warriors 2, aka Escape from the Bronx. And if 1990 the Bronx Warriors was a gang war, then Bronx Warriors 2 was escalated into a civil war with big developers, with gentrification on their minds, bent on exterminating the innocent inhabitants and the not-so-innocent inhabitants of the Bronx. So Mark Gregory really steps up as an actor with this one. The improvement's dramatic. Henry Silver also chews up the ravaged South Bronx scenery as Floyd Wangler, head honcho of the Disinfestation Annihilation Squad. And both these movies are awesome examples of genuine world building, and they make an awesome graphic novel, I reckon, or a graphic novel series. Bronx Warriors 2 had the distinction of being one of the most exported Italian action films of the decade, which was quite an honour. And then Mark Gregory appeared in a little-known movie called Adam and Eve, which I've never seen, but it looks interesting. And after that, he appeared in Thunder, aka Thunder Warrior, directed by Fabrizio De Angelis, best remembered as the producer of Zombie, The Beyond, and most of Lucio Fulci's movies. Thunder and its sequels were basically inspired by First Blood and all of those sequels. The only real difference is that Mark Gregory plays a Native American, so there's that whole added dynamic. The whole Thunder trilogy was filmed in Arizona, Nevada, and unusually the Canary Islands, of all places, using vast desert landscapes to evoke the American Southwest. The films became massive hits on VHS, especially in Germany and Eastern Europe, where Gregory was marketed as a bit of a Italian answer to Sylvester Stallone, which is unusual because he's Italian himself. I guess he's the real Italian stallion, as it were. And Mark Gregory rounded out his acting career with a trio of war movies. There was 1988's Delta Force Commando with Fred the Hammer Williamson. And that same year, he did Tenzan, The Ultimate Mission, playing a mercenary on a deadly mission in North Korea. And finally, Mark Gregory appeared in 1989's Afghanistan, The Last War Bus, aka War Bus Commando. And then he vanished off the face of the earth, seemingly, but YouTuber Lance Cowboy did an exhaustive, admirable job of searching for the big guy for the good of all of us. But sadly, Lance's research revealed that Mark Gregory passed away in 2013, all alone, leaving behind a legacy cherished by fans of Italian cult cinema. I'll link to Lance's Trash videos in the description, his Hunt for Trash videos. They're quite interesting. And I guess that's about all there is to say about Mark Gregory. Even though he never achieved mainstream fame outside Europe, his image, I guess the stoic, chrome-plated hero of Italian post-apocalyptic and action cinema, remains indelible in cult film circles. He's one of our guys, one of our people. And his performances really embody the boundless energy, I guess, of 1980s genre filmmaking in Italy, bridging the aesthetics of spaghetti westerns, Mad Max-inspired dystopias, and Vietnam-era action thrillers. And today's films continue to enjoy a dedicated following among collectors, B-movie enthusiasts, and fans of Italian exploitation cinema, and a new generation of fans. I've lost count of how many times I've watched Bronx Warriors 1 and 2, their ultimate comfort movies, perfect beer and pizza, or beer and fried chicken movies. And I can't say enough good things about Bronx Warriors 1 and 2, or 1990 The Bronx Warriors and Escape from the Bronx, respectively. As I said, these are very cool world-building movies that would make a great series of graphic novels if anyone was ever to go upon that undertaking and bring trash to the printed page. That'd be really awesome. And I've seen these movies as many times as most people have seen Star Wars. I can sort of quote them line for line, and that's quite amazing that they have that kind of longevity. But I'm sure Mark Gregory and Enzo Castellari couldn't have anticipated at the time. But they are very creative, they're cartoonish, they're almost like comic books come to life, in a similar sense to Walter Hill's The Warriors, and they are definitely worth seeking out if you haven't seen 1990 The Bronx Warriors, or Bronx Warriors 2, Escape from the Bronx. And they're very different movies, as I said, even though they're set in the same universe. The first one's basically like a gang war sort of movie like The Warriors, and the second one is really a civil war with gangs versus evil disinfestors trying to gentrify their neighborhood and get rid of all the locals and move more fashionable people in who'll pay higher property prices and so on and so forth. It's sadly, that's the story of our lives in 2025 around the world. The whole world is Bronx Warriors 2 at the moment, unfortunately, with gentrification and inflation and private equity firms and things like that. But it is what it is. So unfortunately, Bronx Warriors 2 isn't as far-fetched as it perhaps once was in 1983. So that is Mark Gregory, star of 1990 The Bronx Warriors, star of Bronx Warriors 2, star of Thunder 2 and 3, star of a bunch of Vietnam War movies, even Adam and Eve. And that's about all I've got to say to him. He died too young, of course, died too alone, which is no good. And I do encourage you to check out the Search for Trash videos, which I'll link in the description, because they are very interesting if you're a Mark Gregory fan. And Lance has done a very good job with those ones. And that's about all I've got to say, I guess, on Mark Gregory. If this is your first time on the channel, if you're enjoying the content, please let me know how my YouTube driving is by liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting, and all that jazz. It really does help out the channel, and it helps me move in the right direction with the right sort of content, which is what it's all about. And if you are a returning viewer, I hope you like this new one. I hope you like these new little mini exploitation, horror, sci-fi film biographies that I've been dabbling in. And likewise, if you're enjoying these, please like, comment, and share. And that's about all I've got time for. I'm off to enjoy the rest of my evening. It's daylight saving here in Australia, so we've still got a couple of hours of sunlight. I hope you do wherever you are. Or otherwise, if it's cold, drizzly, and wet, I couldn't think of anything better to do right now than a double bill of 1990 The Bronx Warriors and Bronx Warriors 2, aka Escape from the Bronx, just to celebrate the late, great Mark Gregory. So until next time, take it easy. I upload here every time inspiration strikes on a fairly regular basis, so by all means, please like, share, and subscribe.